October 1943. Volturno Valley, southern Italy. The river had swollen from the recent rains. Its banks were soft and treacherous. The road a mess of clay and mud. German sappers of the 26th Corps were ordered to hold the crossings as long as possible. Bridges were blown, fords washed away, pontoon gear lost to the current. From the far side of the valley came the steady, organised pulse of the enemy. Columns of trucks, artillery, treads, the unnervingly even rhythm of supply. The flood would stop them, the Germans thought. Another day, and it would. At dawn, reconnaissance reported that the Anglo-Americans were unloading steel farms, boxes of bolts, long rods. The sapper lieutenant, a thin, quiet man with the factory habit of touching metal with his fingers, led his squad to the eroded bank. On the opposite side of the valley, groups of men moved without shouting, carrying rectangular lattice panels, setting them on edge, pinning them together with iron rods. A hammer struck a pin's head with a dry metallic crack, and two frames became one, then another, then a triple span. Planks went across the top. No cranes, no winches, no machine shop. Just men, panels, and the bright ring of metal on metal. "What is that?" the Obersturmführer asked, listening to the constant ding-ding of hammers on the far bank. "A modular bridge, Herr Officer," the lieutenant replied without looking away. "It's assembled like a toy. All panels identical. The joints, just pins, no fine adjustments. They're building in mud without a single measuring table. The German Kriegsbrückengerät was excellent in its own way. Classic pontoons, beams, connectors. But it demanded calm water, careful alignment, time. And time was what they were losing." Before the lieutenant's eyes, a steel path grew out across the river in hours. By evening, the first trucks rolled carefully across. Dodges under canvas, field ambulances, half-tracks. Men on the bridge simply replaced pins, shifted planks, tapped fittings into place. Rain drummed on helmets. Hammers answered with rhythm. By the next day, the bridge carried full traffic. At noon, an American engineer captain, his arms black with grease, checked the deflection and waved the artillery forward. "Go." Guns rolled over then long lines of supply trucks, relentless as a heartbeat. We could never do that, the lieutenant thought. Not because we lack skill, because we build unique bridges. And they've built one bridge for every place. That night, in the no-man's land, German sappers dragged an abandoned crate from the bank. Inside, neatly packed parts. Panel frames, identical cross members, bolts wrapped in oiled paper, several heavy hammers, wrenches, painted letters, Bailey. Under them, a load chart. Single span, double, triple. 1 lane, 2, 3, everything standardized. No mysterious machining, no key that only fits that one bolt from Berlin. Just repeatable geometry and confidence. "This bridge," the lieutenant said quietly, "doesn't fear a dull hammer." "Our parts are like violins," grumbled an old corporal. "Miss one note and it's ruined." "They built a drum," the lieutenant answered. "You can strike it in any weather." By morning the Americans had lengthened the crossing again. 10 men, 2 hammers, 1 rhythm per metre, another span complete. Trucks never stopped. Supply flowed like water, and water was now just another line on a map. In November, retreating, the Germans tried to destroy the bridge. Explosions tore out sections, sent fragments spinning downstream. Yet by evening, the same engineer company had built a bypass, shifted the entrance, pinned new panels over the gap. The current carried away the wreckage, the bridge remained. Not because it was indestructible, because it could be rebuilt by the same hammer logic. The lieutenant realised they were losing not an engineering contest, but the war against time itself. In winter 1943, he was captured near Cassino. At a transit camp, prisoners were offered work in repair shops. Showing the calluses on his hands and a thin engineer's pencil, he was assigned to the American engineers. What astonished him first was not steel, but paper. The assembly manual, simple diagrams, configuration tables, deflection norms, part lists. No, for officers only, no jargon. Everything written for the man with the hammer. "See," explained the sergeant in charge, holding up a box of identical pins. "Our secret isn't in the metal. It's that any kid from Kansas, sir, who's built a barn can figure this out. We're not geniuses. We just repeat. Repetition bred confidence. Confidence bred speed. Speed bred logistics. Logistics won wars." The lieutenant saw that pattern everywhere. A truck unloading exactly 24 panels. A foreman pointing to the same chart. A spare pin immediately used as reinforcement. The bridge singing as a column crossed. Hammers tapping to tune its tone. By spring 1944, he was sent to a training base in southern Italy, where Allied troops practiced bridging for future operations. Again, the same panels, the same rhythm, only faster. They were taught to count by bays, single for jeeps, double for trucks, triple for gun carriers. "Aren't you afraid," he once asked, "to trust a column to a few pins?" "It's frightening," the captain smiled, "until you've built 1,000 bridges. After that, it's just math." Summer brought headlines. Anzio, Rome, Normandy. Photos in the papers showed the same steel lattices across French rivers, the same silhouettes against mud and rain. Everywhere, panel, pin, plank, hammer. A war of panels, he thought bitterly. In 1945, the war ended. He returned to a city on the Rhine where every third span was empty air. American trucks roared through ruins. Again came the hammering sound. Engineers rebuilding temporary crossings to bring in bread and coal. He was hired as a civilian labourer. His hand still knew the hammer's weight, his eyes the deflection table. For the first time, he built a Bailey Bridge, not for an advance, but for a convoy of food. And for the first time he felt that steel could carry hope as well as weight. The new era arrived. Plans, budgets, reconstruction. German workshops debated what to keep, precision or repeatability. Old masters wanted to return to the draftsman's bench, to the unique beam with a soul. Young men asked for shelves of identical bolts and a chart on the wall. The lieutenant, now just the engineer, said, "Our strength was uniqueness. Our weakness too. We must learn to love the duplicate as much as the masterpiece." By 1947, he led a team of builders, teaching them to throw temporary bridges toward factories so cranes could rise and machines start again. The hammer became a metronome of peace. "We'll build the temporary," he told the workers, "and then the permanent will stand upon it. But the permanent must also be assembled from repeats, or we'll drown again in our masterpieces." At the opening of a new, permanent bridge, the old Bailey still stood nearby, like a steel signature of the past. A young reporter asked him, "You've seen many bridges. Which one was the best?" "That one," the engineer said, glancing at the lattice shadow. "The one you can build overnight, and have bread cross it in the morning. Beauty comes later. Life first." By the early 1950s, new principles entered German factories. Interchangeable parts, standardized joints, modular systems. Not the rejection of quality, but its transformation. The understanding that excellence lives not only in the craftsman's hand, but in a process teachable to thousands. Bridges were no longer violins, yet their harmony was clearer. Any discord could be fixed in the same place with the same motion. He sometimes took from a drawer an old American pin, smooth, looped, darkened with age. He would show it to apprentices. "There's no secret alloy here. The secret is that there are millions of them, and that any of you, even cold and tired, can strike it true by the third hit at night in the rain, and joined two panels. That's civilization. Years passed. Highways rose, factories hummed, traffic filled the roads. The war retreated into museums. Yet every February, when ice tore at bridge piers, they still called him. He and his men would open the same crates, lift the same panels, drive the same pins. By dawn, a steel shadow stretched across the water again, old as his memory, new as the morning bread. He smiled at the rhythm. Panel, pin, plank, hammer. Because in that rhythm there was no triumph or defeat, only the formula of survival. At the final reunion of his technical school, grey-haired masters and young engineers, someone asked, "What did those bridges teach us?" He answered quietly that the hardest thing is to accept the simple. That reliability is repetition. That speed is not haste, but certainty in every joint. And that it's better to have 1,000 good solutions than one perfect one that no one can build in the rain. Some applauded, some just smiled. He laid his hand on the rough metal of a training panel, a new one, German-made, calculated by modern norms but built by the same wartime logic, and heard the soft ding it made. The same sound the rain had played on helmets by the Volturno long ago. Only now that sound was not a march to war, but the pulse of a city where, by morning, there would be bread.